Greetings. Do you remember that from Bread, that Liverpool sitcom? Greetings. He says in that fake Scouse accent. Remember Aveline? I want to be a model. Okay, welcome to Hegel on the beach again. Only Bootle has changed a lot again. Not on the beach this time again. We'll be at the beach next time. And that's a volcano that I'm not going to climb. So, last week we talked about Fichte, the German idealist, philosophy Fichte, and we talked about his contribution to socialism and kind of post-Marx Marxist. So, his thought he also seems to have influenced socialism in another very deeply significant way, not just about this closed state, that's socialism in one country and so on. So Anthony Curtis Adler put it like this in his interpretive essay and his translation of the closed commercial state. You know, socialism in one country, socialism looks like North Korea. But he said this: pure reason, itself identified by Fichte as a capacity for willing ends, creates further tools and means to its ends by transforming the world around it. Marxism as a philosophy of praxis, say it again, doesn't it annoy you when I say praxis? Because it's just a pretentious way of saying political action, isn't it? But you see it in these journals. Oh, the praxial this and praxis that. How do we inform our praxis? You know, it's just pretend, isn't it? It's made up by academics. But anyway, so Marxism and philosophy as political action and Marxism as a science to change the world. Remember, it was seen as a science. It cannot be wrong. They're two key themes of the 20th century socialism, socialist thought, Marxist thought. Praxis and as Marxism as a science, they were seen as a means of transforming humanity. And that happened to the Soviet Union. We'll talk about that next time, I think. But I really want to look at Marx and Fichte, and for the first time, art. Oh, art, very pretentious. I'm getting so pretentious now you won't believe it. But yes, art, and how one artwork in particular gives us a really deep insight to, I think, the Marxist vision of humankind, how Marxists saw humanity. Okay, we saw how we did it in the sciences. We saw, you know, it can't be wrong. We saw it's political action, but like, what about art? Does that tell us anything? I think it does. So you know, how Fichte influenced Marx and influenced us consequently. So the painter, muralist, and the political activist Diego Rivera was commissioned by John D. Rockefeller to do a painting in the Rockefeller building. And this is a cue for a song. You knew it was coming. That's right. Okay. So, as I mentioned, Rockefeller. Okay. So, I've got the words to the song. I can't remember it. Okay. Are you ready? Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue on that famous thoroughfare with their noses in the air, high hats and arrow collars, white spats and lots of dollars, spending every dime for a wonderful time? If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Boom, boom, putting on the Ritz, dressed up like $1 million trooper. Boom, boom, trying hard to be like Gary Cooper. Super duper. Come, let's mix where Rockefellers walk with sticks or umbrellas in their mitts. Putting on the Ritz. Right, I'll put that down. Do you like that? A Rockefeller song with a mural. What a brilliant link. Okay, so Diego Rivera, to continue, I know you want to hear more, but he was commissioned to do a mural for the Rockefeller Center in New York. And Rivera was, you know, to his core, a committed Marxist. So the choice of a Marxist, even though he'd been in America doing interesting stuff in Detroit, the choice of a Marxist to do a mural for the biggest capitalist on the planet is very interesting in itself. And you know, Rivera's work are all very public art. Anyway, Rivera paints this mural called Man at the Crossroads. And within this artwork, there were two panels entitled The Frontier of Ethical Evolution and The Frontier of Material Development. The artwork itself depicted Lenin in the Rockefeller Center, although a Lenin who was very well hidden, tucked away somewhere. And it also portrayed capitalism to be practically synonymous with fascism. So remember, this was in the 1930s. So when Rockefeller got wind of the Lenin miniature, he ordered its destruction. Actually, he discovered the Lenin miniature by accident. I think someone was cleaning it and they found, it was tucked away somewhere, and they found this picture of Lenin. So, of course, a furious Diego Rivera, when he returned to Mexico, repainted the mural and he renamed it Man, Controller of the Universe. Very important title, that. Man, Controller of the Universe. He also included a pantheon of socialist heroes, Lenin and Trotsky, not Stalin, of course, because, you know, he hated Stalin up until the end, and then he drew a big picture of Stalin and said he was wonderful. Okay, but at this time he was anti-Stalinist. So, and he made the mural even grander and more political if possible. So at the center of the picture is a blonde, blue-eyed man. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to move, because I'm going to get glare. So I'm going to move this. Yeah, you ready? Let's see if we can do it. I've not tried this before. So, you ready? This is, where is it? Okay, I'm going to show you this picture. So I'm going to take you for a quick walk, okay? Enjoy the landscape. Look. Okay, look at this, because there'll be a bit of glare here, okay? Look, oops. Right, I just fall over, eh? Look, see? Beautiful. Beautiful. Right, okay. So I'm going to come here away from the glare to show you this. I'm going to go back in a minute. Okay, so here's the picture. Right. Can you see it? I don't think you can. Ah, yeah, you can, I think, yeah. Okay, so can you see? That's called Man, Controller of the Universe, yeah? And you can see man, can't you, in the middle? And you can see, despite the glare, I wish I could fiddle with this and put it in a different, so okay, so you can see man, yeah? See the big orb and the hand grabbing the orb, the big circular thing, and you see the four wings, the four arcs? Yeah, and you'll see, like, there's loads of great detail there. Okay, let me go a bit closer. Can you see the big hand grabbing it? Yeah, look at this, wait a minute. Okay, right, it mightn't be very good, but I will continue. Okay, so you got the general idea. If I can, I will try, and I will, I'll try and get, like, I'll try and stick it up. I might not be able to. So let's continue back with the, I'll talk about it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here. Okay, go back. Enjoy the view. Like, real live documentary. Okay, let's get back here. Okay, so you saw that mural. That mural, okay? So, okay, you saw the picture, the blonde-haired guy. And he's controlling the universe. Okay, the mural shows civilization at a crossroads. Fascism versus communism. The Wall Street class versus the working class. Lazy capitalist women in one corner, on one side of the panel, and the working class on the other. The controller, as you saw, it had these four wings, yeah? Kind of like wings or arcs. So he was showing, like, different aspects of humanity, like space, humans getting... okay, so I think there's space and microorganisms in two of the panels. And that infers that humans, through science, are getting ever greater control over the inner space, like microorganisms, and also outer space. Man, the white blue-eyed male, is the centerpiece. Man is all. While the infinity of the universe itself is downgraded to space, to a space within these arcs. So space isn't like out there. Space is in the arcs. These little wings. So that's a very Marxist, but also a very Fichtean idea. So remind you the quote I made earlier about Fichte and reason as a means to an end. Pure reason itself, identified by Fichte as a capacity for willing ends, creates further tools and means to its ends by transforming the world around it. So the ego posits everything. In Rivera's picture, the inner space of microorganisms and disease are conquered by humanity. But in an act of sacrilege, mankind plucks the very stars out of the sky for his own needs. So you can actually see, even there's a big star, I think a shooting star or something, even that is contained within, that's controlled by humanity. Okay. Also, we see a statue of a classical Greek god wearing a crucifix, which is symbolic of, ironically, it's symbolic of Rivera's view of religion as oppression. But the thing is, it's actually a religious painting itself, that painting, but I'll tell you in a second. Anyway, so opposing the Nazi army on one side of the picture are the workers in Red Square on the other side of the picture. So I think that the mural tells us, or what it tells us, the significance of it, is Marx's link to Fichte. So Marx identified reason with the transformation of the world around us. Man is for Marxism also literally the controller of the universe. That's pure Fichte, as we talked about in the last video. Political action is necessary to transform the world, and we are, in the mural, primarily agents, actors, and we're not passive spectators. So I'll talk about how this trope played out in practice in the Soviet Union. But something else I'd like to add is, I think this picture is disturbing, not just because the fascists lurking in the background and so on, and not just because it shows inequalities, there are inspirational panels, by the way, to counterbalance these fascist, armies and so on. Because you've got the workers' movement, you've got the unity of races, stuff like that. So there's a lot of optimism in the picture. But what is disturbing is the hand that grasps the orb in the middle of the picture. It's like the white orb of technology, because in the orb, I can't show it to you now, but in the orb there are all these like machines. So that's what's quite disturbing. The white male controlling the machinery is also weird. Why is he a white blonde-haired male? I think it's also disturbing. Which brings the question, is man, I'm using man instead of humanity. I'm using man because it's a man in the picture. So is man really in control? For me, this disembodied hand that's grasping the oar, it's emerged through a metallic pipe. And it looks like it's in control. This weird disembodied hand, just weird sticking out like that. It's a bit like, the bubble in The Prisoner TV series of the 1960s. Who is number one? Who is in control? I mean, as I said before, the orb itself has 3 or 4 miniature machines inside it. Has Rivera unconsciously given us a glimpse of the future, of the driverless cars of the future in the picture? So I think it's maybe also the position of nature. This is also something interesting. The position of nature in the picture is very, very significant because there are a few plants there, but they're at the bottom of the picture. And I think they're all cultivated plants. There's not any wild ones, I don't think. And the plants that are there, they look anyway like they're being tended by human hands, and there's water. There's sort of like, a water supply going to them. I think they look a bit sorry. They don't look really, like dramatic. Like, look at some of the trees there. They're not alive like that. They look a bit dead. They're also represented in a cross-section. Like they aren't real plants. Like they're from a textbook, copied from a textbook of plants. It's like a plant version of Rembrandt's The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Tulp, which is kind of like turns the human body into like a machine or a diagram. And that's, I think, That's what it looks like to me. It looks like the plant, well, yeah, the plant world's not important. It's man, humanity, that's the important thing. Nature, well, you know, it's just for our needs, isn't it, nature? So the Fichtean world and the Marxist world, that view leads down the path of what's the phrase anthropocentrism, it's called. And that's a pessimistic view of this picture. Maybe it's not so pessimistic, but that's, when I was reading Fichte, that thing popped into my head. So I think that there is a link there. Anyway, what famous painting, by the way, does that remind you of? Can you think of a famous painting that man controlled the universe? Okay, there's a billion paintings, isn't there? Okay, so the one it reminds me of is Michelangelo's The Last Judgment. Now, let's see if I can get this up, okay? Now, you'll know this picture, and I don't know anything about art, and I know a bit about this picture. So let's get this one up, and I might get no glare now. Okay, can you see that? Let's tell you what, let's go back for our walk again. Walkies! Okay, so, okay, let's put this here again, and you can see Michelangelo's The Last Judgment. Bit better, okay. Yeah, oh, I can see that, can't you? Can you see, at the middle, there's God. There is God, right in the middle. And there's the damned at the bottom. And there's the saved. You see it? It's a very dramatic picture. It's like, you know, it's like a... I'll show you. All you've got to do is go to the Sistine Chapel and you can see it for yourself. You don't need me to hold this up, do you? Anyway, so that's the Last Judgment. God's in the middle. You got the damned. You got the saved. You've got a variety of, like, you know, pantheon of saints doing interesting stuff. A bit like, you know, so, you know, like the pantheon of socialist saints. Well, you got a pantheon of saints in the in the Last Judgment. Michelangelo's The Last Judgment. So you got it there as well. So I'm going to talk about that now. So back to this beautiful bootle. Okay, been to the trees, now to bootle. Okay, so let me get rid of this picture. Okay, I can't bloody see anything. Right, bear with me. Okay, so that's the Last Judgment. Okay, so now the two pictures, if I could flash them up, I'd flash them up, but I might get done for copyright. But those two pictures, what do they show? Michelangelo's picture shows we've got, okay, God, of course, at the centre instead of man, but we've got a cosmic drama, haven't we? Cosmic drama. I mean, we've got the saved in one part of the picture, as I said before, we've got the damned in another part of the picture, like the Nazis and like the socialists. Rivera's picture puts man instead of God at the centre of the story. But the two paintings are also alike because both are, you know, big stories, grand narratives, aren't they? About the biggest stuff you can imagine, the meaning of life, spirituality, but you know, good and bad, good and evil and so on. The subject matter, it can't get any bigger, can it? It's good versus evil, fascism versus communism, the damned versus the saved. And actually, as I said before, both are religious paintings. Now, I think Rivera's painting is just as religious as Michelangelo's painting. So the 300, one actual interesting parallel is this. There are 300 figures in that Sistine Chapel thing, Michelangelo, in The Last Judgment. Now, they were to represent the most perfect and well-proportioned composition of the human body in its most varied positions. So as I said, Michelangelo put God at the centre, but in reality, he was such an expert on human anatomy that the human comes to the centre, doesn't it, really? Even though it is God, but it's also God in the form of this human being. So that's why it reminds me of that Rivera picture. So the pictures, I said, they've got so much in common. I don't see it's possible not to see that Rivera painting as a religious painter and as a religious drama. So, okay, where does all of this art interpretation lead us, okay? And it's all very interesting, isn't it, art and stuff like that. So how does it fit in with Hegel's view of Fichte and his significance? So I think it speaks up to the limits of how much humanity can be in control. Fichte and Marx, and in particular those Marxists who came after Marx, had an extremely optimistic view of the future of humanity and its relationship with nature, and an optimistic view of science as well. Very optimistic. Is humanity the future? Is the endless subsumption of nature under human control a good thing? Well, I mean, I don't think it is. No one thinks that anymore, do they? Coming here, you know, sticking a fairground at the top of that volcano is just not a good idea anymore, is it? So, brings me to another part, which is kind of like, was Marx a weird word, productivist, okay? So early Marx says that a true human would embrace labouring activity. Okay, so labour was part of humanity's essence. So Marx said that, you know, after socialism, humankind would fish in the morning, herd cattle in the afternoon, and do literature in the evening. You know, so he'd be like, I mean, it is a complete utopia, isn't it, for a start? But what he was saying was that labouring, all of those activities, by the way, I've said before, they're all solitary activities, and they're all hobby activities. They're all pastoral, aren't they? There's nothing to do with them. There's no machines anywhere. But that's not the point. The point is just doing stuff. Labouring is part of, you know, humanity. You know, just sitting on your arse isn't. So late Marx also did seem to think, he didn't really change his mind, but he seemed to temper this view of labour with a dose of kind of, I hate to use the word realism, but, you know, sort of, you know, he'd seen factories close up, hadn't he? So did Marx change his attitude? It's claimed that Marx saw our domination over nature as essential. So work would be reduced and free time extended as the power of the productive forces grew. So this is from Marx Capital Volume 3. The realm of freedom actually begins only where labour, which is determined by necessity and mundane considerations, right, cleaning the bins, yeah, ceases. So when that stops, ceases. Thus, in the very nature of things, it lies beyond the sphere of actual material production. Just as the savages must wrestle with nature to satisfy his wants, to maintain and reproduce life, so must civilized man. And he must do so in all social formations and under all possible modes of production. So under socialism, you got to work. No escape. With this development, the realm of physical necessity expands as a result of his wants. But at the same time, the forces of production which satisfy these wants also increase freedom in this field, can only consist in socialized man, the associated producers rationally regulating their interchange with nature, not exploitation, okay, bringing it under their common control, like socializing, nationalizing, instead of being ruled by it as by the blind forces of nature. Oh, blind forces of nature gets a bit. But then, and achieving this with the least expenditure of energy and under conditions most favourable to and worthy of their human nature. But it nonetheless still remains a realm of necessity. Beyond it, that means work is boring. But beyond it begins the development of human energy, which is an end in itself. The true realm of freedom. Work's over. We can go read a book, go for a walk, have a hobby doing something, okay? This is the true realm of freedom, which, however, can blossom forth only within the realm of necessity as its basis. So the basis of being able to do stuff, like I'm coming here. I mean, for God's sake, I'm in this place now, and I can't do it unless I have got a salary and I'll go to work. It's not possible to do it. Same with anyone going on holiday. To do interesting stuff, you've got to work your butt off. Okay, so shortening the working day is its basic prerequisite. So bingo! Shorten the working day. So if it's a shitty day, it's terrible, you can at least, it's like 6 hours or 5 hours. You go and do stuff. Okay. So Marx isn't really saying that we need to conquer nature. That's but this is the common interpretation, isn't it? Under Stalinism. Dam up the Aral Lake, build a canal like 500 miles long. Oh, by the way, we've destroyed all the water supply. Never mind. We can accomplish anything because Soviet man, you know, hunky guy, Stakhanov. It's all, we control the universe. Okay, so humankind is seen as wrestling with nature. Nature is perhaps an adversary at times. You know, there's no question it is. Anyone's been out in the cold, it's freezing, isn't it? When in the winter, you can get nature can kill you. So it's not all great nature. Nature can be hostile and horrible. So the expansion of the forces of production seem to mean greater freedom for humanity, though. That is just, it's inescapable, isn't it? Just, it's better, isn't it, having stuff that's made. However, isn't that kind of like the same productive as garbage you see from the Chinese Communist Party? Don't they come up with that? Because they say, oh, we're on our way to socialism. In 100 years' time, everyone's going to have flying cars and like James Bond suits where you can fly up in the air and you know, all kinds of stuff. And then it'll be sorted then. Everyone's going to have whatever they want. So this fella, Aaron Bastani, who you might have heard, if you're a socialist, people have heard of this guy, right? He's sort of like journalist, you know, like whatever, good luck to him. But anyway, he isn't, not good luck to him because I don't like him at all. But anyway, in his book, what a terrible book, Fully Automated Luxury Communism. I mean, come on, who would write a book like that? Such a stupid book. But anyway, he wrote a book, Fully Automated Luxury Communism. He comes up with a similar productivist utopia. No, we'll just produce our way out of misery. Just keep on making stuff. Okay, so he says this. We will see more of the. This is his productivist utopia. We will see more of the world than ever before. Eat varieties of food we have never heard of, and lead lives equivalent, if we so wish, to those of today's billionaires. Luxury will pervade everything as society based on wage work becomes to as much a relic as the feudal peasant. I mean, come on. This fella, you see him, he's on all kinds of weird panels, socialist. He's never actually done it. He's never worked. He's just like one of these like sort of socialist intellectuals. Anyway, so, sorry, Aaron Bastani. Don't even know him. I've just read this bit of the book. Okay, so I don't think Marx is saying that, of course. I think he's saying that we need to make the hours that we labour shorter because then we can all have a life. Okay, but if you're a refuse collector, then maybe that's sort of difficult to make labour interesting, okay, and worthwhile. But maybe not, because even with the idea of, say, rubbish, we can think about recycling, can't we? I mean, recycling is fascinating stuff, isn't it? How can we get stuff that we don't use anymore and make it use it again? I mean, so it is interesting, but we can make work less boring and repetitive. I mean, it's necessary. And it's going to be a bit boring, but less boring and less arduous than it is. And I think it's that simple. I think Marx said it that simple now. But while we have unregulated capital, we are bound by its laws, which is speed up, like the Charlie Chaplin thing, isn't it? Speed up, speed up, speed up. And even when it's not a machine, you're working in a factory, the world of work mimics that. So if you're like in education, you've got to like get all, come on, have you done that? Have you got this? There's no need for it. There's no need to get kids speeding up to say, have you done this? Have you increased that level? There's no need for it to speed up kids, speed up teachers' work, doing 5 or 6 days. There's no need for it whatsoever. It's just mimicking this weird Charlie Chaplin world. Like, you know, what's it called? The factory world of Charlie Chaplin. And that's because capital is so powerful. So Marx's vision in Capital Volume 3 isn't a utopia. He seems no longer to look at labour as naively, perhaps, as he did when he talked about fishing and, you know, hunting and shooting and whatever else he was talking about. Milking cows in the afternoon and so on. But anyway, cleaning the bins, it's never really going to be a lot of fun under whatever society you've got. But we need to do it. And it's never included in anyone's utopias at the bins. I think Thomas More in his utopia, I think he said the criminals would do the bins. Okay, so like, you know, Putin recruited the criminals to invade Ukraine. Well, that was Thomas More's utopia. Just let the criminals do it. To conclude, I want to say that when Marxists have interpreted Marx, whether through art, so it's, or politics or whatever, I think, to get back to what I was saying, that there is this Fichtean thread that runs through it. And the problem is the status and the centrality of humanity itself and its relationship with nature. So are we the controllers of the universe, as Diego Rivera says, and as Fichte believed it? Or is there an alternative model that's more harmonious with nature? Okay, so from Sunny Bootle, see you later. And I hope you enjoyed those great reflected artworks on my tablet. Okay, all right, I'll see you later. Oh, and I thought you liked me. Hope you liked the dancing. Okay, the same. I know you couldn't see my legs moving, but you were moving like Billy O. And so I'll see you later. Bye.